Making progress since I made my list. I got one flap cable hooked up. That's a real pain in the butt getting in there in that handhole cover with these fat short fingers, but I got it hooked up and got it pretty well figured out on the right side. The left side I started getting it hooked up, but the grease is kind of congealed on the link there that hooks into, so it was kind of stiff. I just sprayed it a little with a PB blaster, let that soak a little bit to soften up. Maybe I can get it loosened up, be easier to work. I'm going to go ahead and cut out these inspection covers, these covers on this tail here, and we'll start out with this one. I'm going to use my soldering iron here, see if I can't melt through those. Instead of cutting them with a razor, I'm going to cut them with this because that'll kind of melt those edges. I'm staying away from the grommet. I want this fabric to stay glued down. Well, anyway, I'm staying away from that grommet, so that's working pretty good. It's a little bit rough, but we can always trim it up here. Well, there's the first panel cut out. You'd have to trim up the insides of those a little bit because they're kind of rough there where it melded through, but I think that's better than trying to cut them with a razor or something. It kind of melts the edges and so they don't fray. Kind of disconcerting cutting holes in your fabric job. Okay, now this one's pretty important because that elevator moves up and down on this. The horizontal stabilizer moves up and down on that. So that one's got to be open. There'll be a cover go over it that covers most of it, but it's still going to be open. Well, I got holes cut in my fuselage. All that work to cover it up, and I just cut holes in it. I've got to make handhole covers for those. I've got the ones, or the covers for these front ones here for the horizontal stabilizer someplace. I have to dig those out and see how they are, but the ones I had in the back here were a little bit cruddy. And then I've got the extra large covers back here that go on the rear where the elevator's attached, to go in there to attach the elevator controls. I put extra large ones on there, and then I've got one on each side of the lower one, and ordinarily they only have one on that, but a heck of a lot easier to work on those if you've got some holes in there you can get your hands in on both sides. So that's done. Anyway, got holes in my airplane now. Well, made a little bit of progress. I got those handhole covers, those inspection covers, or whatever you want to call them, cut out. I got my rudder control cables pulled out through the side. I didn't think I was going to be able to get those out through that little slot, but I got them out of there pretty good. They came right out. That upper elevator cable had come out of the turnbuckle, and the cable had sprung forward, and I had to fish it out. That was kind of a challenge, but we got it out and turnbuckle back on. I've got my electrical wire for my beacon and aft position light there fished out. I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do with that, but it's fished out of there. So I kind of come to an impasse on this. I want to put this tail together with all stainless steel hardware. It takes a real beating back here in the salt and stuff, staying wet, and everything's all exposed. So I like to use stainless steel hardware on everything back here. And I've got all of the bolts, and I thought I had nuts, but when I got to looking at it, I don't have the right nuts. I've got a whole bunch of commercial quality stainless steel nuts, but I don't have any AN stainless steel nuts in the 1032. So I'm going to have to order some nuts. I may be able to put this together and just put the bolts in everything and then wait for the nuts to get here to put them on. And I went ahead and got that other flap cable hooked up. That was a pain. That thing was stiff in there, and I couldn't get the little links to move back and forth, and I kept lubing it with some PB blaster and moving them, trying to get them in there. I finally got it in there, finally got it on. So both of the flap cables are attached. They're of course going to need to be adjusted, but I have to do that when we get the flap put on. So progress is being made, even if it is slow. It took me a long time. My hands looked like I was wrestling with an alligator. I'm going to go ahead and put the new cables in for these drag cable, carry-through cable here. And I've cut off a cable about 175 inches long, or so, a little more than that, off my spool of 1/8-inch cable. I looked in the book and looked in the drawings, and they had all kinds of different dimensions for this carry-through cable. Well, I looked on the Universe site, and it said 167 and 15/16, and that's from the point of the eye, the inside of the loop, to the inside of the loop on the other end. I'm going to cut off the eye on this one that's in there, and then I'm going to put a piece of this heat shrink tube on there. butt those two up together with a piece of heat shrink tubing on there and then pull it through. So we'll use one cable to pull the other one through. So I'll put plenty on there so it's got plenty of pull on it. Run them in and butt them up together. Hold that cable on the other side of the airplane there so it doesn't slide down, would you? Yeah, there, just like that. That's fine. Okay, let's see how that works. Go ahead and pull it through.
One with the knobby on it.
One with the turnbuckle on it, yeah.
Okay, you're almost to the end.
That's good, that's through.
Okay. I was just afraid to do
No,
anything.
that's fine. It was hanging up on that pulley. It just needed to be straightened out. A little tension put on it so it straightened out and went through that pulley. Now I got an end here on this end that I can feed into the cabin of the airplane and put an eye on that, and then that'll hook up with that link that links the two together. And do the same thing to the other side. Hey, this is what it looks like coming out through this side. Hopefully I've got plenty in there that fed through that pulley. A little bit of trouble getting this heat shrink through that pulley. So now we'll cut the turnbuckle off of that end and put it on this end, but I'm not going to put it on this end until we get everything all rigged up so we can cut it to the proper length to fit on the aileron. And we got both cables run through there, both of the carry-through cables. That right one went pretty good. Took a little bit of a pull getting it around that pulley. This left one didn't work quite so well. The heat shrink tubing broke trying to get it through that pulley. We wound up pulling the old cable out and I had to pull the inspection cover off there and reach in. And it took both of us, my wife and I, taking turns to get that cable run through that pulley around there and then got it back out through the access hole in the wing. But we got it. You can reach that pulley through that access hole, but it's not right underneath it, so you gotta fiddle with it some to get the cable routed through it. There's guards around the pulley and you have to feed the cable through the guards, so they've got to go through one guard and then bend and go through the main bracket of the pulley, bend again, and then go through the second guard. So it's kind of a little bit of a challenge getting it to bend around there, but we did it. And then of course you can't reach all the way down. At least my arms are too big to get in there. Even my wife's arms were too big to get in that hole to reach all the way down to where the cable exits through the skin of the wing there. I run a piece of safety wire back up through that exit hole back into the inspection cover and then wrapped it around that cable a little bit, put a little bit of electrician's tape on it, and we were able to pull it through there like that. We got it. I got the eyes put in the cables there where they go in the fuselage, and I put that link in there, so those are together. The carry-through cable is together. So we just have to wait to finish those up till we put the ailerons on, and I guess probably till we put the struts on, we can get both cables set up the right length.